Chapter 2. The Pink Flamingo Motel sat on a forgotten stretch of federal highway. Once it had been a destination, back when people drove down from Georgia and didn't care about thread count or room service. Now the ocean was 6 blocks away, and might as well have been 600. Bodert parked the Ford. The truck's shadow cut across cracked asphalt dotted with stubborn weeds. The motel was 2 stories of faded coral stucco, a pink that started out bold and ended up exhausted. The plastic flamingos bolted to the roof were each missing at least one leg, leaning at angles that suggested they were considering a jump. A shirtless man sat in a plastic chair outside room 14, his chest a canvas of faded prison ink. He held a beer and stared at Bodert with the particular emptiness of someone who had been up for 3 days and planned to stay up for 3 more. Bodert nodded. The man didn't nod back. He climbed the exterior stairs to the 2nd floor, the metal treads ringing under his boots. Room 24 had a small plastic flamingo nailed to the door, this one intact, sporting a tiny top hat glued at a jaunty angle. A curtain of bone-colored beads hung in the doorway, clacking together in the breeze from a window unit that dripped condensation onto the walkway. Bodert pushed through the beads. The room smelled like sandalwood, cigarette smoke, and the kind of cheap floral perfume they sold at the corner gas station. Dark purple fabric draped the walls, pinned up with thumbtacks. A small table sat in the center of the room, covered in blood-red velvet. On it, a grapefruit-sized crystal ball, a spread deck of tarot cards, and a jar candle burned down to a pool of black wax. Madame Serena sat behind the table in a thrift store chair missing its left arm. She wore a purple silk robe, straight out of a cheap Halloween shop. Her dark hair fell past her shoulders, streaked with gray she didn't bother to hide. Her bourbon-colored eyes tracked him all the way across the room. "You're late," she said. "You said come see you. You didn't say when. The universe doesn't operate on your timeline, John." She gestured to a folding chair with a faded orange cushion. "Sit." He sat. The metal frame groaned. Serena picked up the tarot deck and shuffled it with the practiced ease of someone who had been doing card tricks since before Bodert carried a badge. The soft, rhythmic slide of paper on paper filled the close air of the room. "You want me to read for the girl," she said. It wasn't a question. "I want you to tell me who to talk to. You never let the process unfold." She laid 3 cards face down on the velvet. "The cards speak. I listen. That's how it works. It's how it works when I'm paying for the psychic show. Today, I'm paying for information." Serena looked up, her eyes going flat. "You want information? Go to the police station and drink bad coffee. You came to me. We do this my way." Bodert leaned back, the chair biting into his shoulders. "Fine. Do the cards." She flipped the first one. A man in a chariot, 2 horses, one black, one white, pulling in opposite directions. The chariot. "Control," Serena said. "Willpower. A journey." The girl didn't run. Someone took her, and he moves with purpose. Bodert waited. She flipped the second card. A figure in a mask holding a cup, a grin painted on his face. The fool's grin, covering up the truth. "The masked man," Serena said, her voice dropping. "A man who wears happiness like a costume. He brings pleasure. He brings what looks like a good time." Her finger traced the card's edge. "But under the mask, there's nothing. Just need. Hunger." "Mr. Good Time," Bodert said. Serena's eyes snapped to his. "You know the name. The cops used it a couple years back. Some girls went missing. They thought maybe there was a pattern. Never went anywhere. They called the suspect Mr. Good Time because he threw parties." "The parties?" Serena flipped the 3rd card. A tower struck by lightning, figures plummeting from its windows. "The tower. That one means trouble," Bodert said. That one means everything you thought was solid is about to crumble. She placed her palm flat on the card. There's a man. He finds girls. Young ones, the kind who still believe the world is safe. He doesn't grab them. He offers them a party. A chance to be somewhere they aren't supposed to be. And they go willingly. They go because he seems safe. Fun. The guy who throws parties and expects nothing in return. Serena's hand moved from the tower to the masked man. But he expects everything. He collects them, John. And when he's done, when the shine wears off, he finds another one. Bodert's jaw tightened. You know someone he used. A recruiter. Serena pulled her hand back and let it rest in her lap. The candle flickered, sending shadows jumping across her face. There's a kid. Calls himself Cricket. Works out of a grow house off Old Dixie, the abandoned golf course. He finds girls for private parties. The kind people pay big money to attend. Cricket know who he's working for? Cricket knows what he needs to know, which is nothing. The man pays cash. The man has a burner number. He picks up the girls from a location Cricket provides. She picked up the tarot cards and began shuffling again, the rhythm agitated now. Cricket doesn't ask questions. He cares about the cocaine he buys with the cash and the ego trip of working for a rich man. Where do I find him? Serena set the deck down. The cards slid against each other, settling into an uneven pile. She pulled a small notebook from the folds of her robe, tore out a page and wrote something down. She slid the paper across the velvet. Bodert picked it up. An address on Old Dixie Highway. A name. Cricket. You owe me, John, Serena said. He reached into his pocket, pulled out $300 bills from Patricia Wembley's stack, and set them beside the candle. Serena looked at the money, then at him. That's not what I meant. I know. He stood, the folding chair scraping the floor. The beads clattered behind him as he pushed through the curtain. He stopped at the threshold, 1 foot on the metal walkway, the heat hitting his face like a wall. Serena. What? You see anything else? About the girl? About the clock she's on? Serena sat very still behind her table. When she spoke, the showmanship was stripped away. I see a young dove in a gilded cage. I see a man who thinks he's building something beautiful that will last forever. He's polishing his collection, getting ready to add a new piece. She looked up, and for a moment she wasn't Madame Serena the psychic hooker. She was a woman who knew exactly what happened to girls who got into cars with men who smiled too wide. You have 3 days, John. Maybe 4. Then he moves on. Then she's not a girl anymore. She's a trophy. Bodert nodded once. He stepped out onto the walkway and let the beads fall. The shirtless man was still in the plastic chair downstairs. A thin woman with chemical blonde hair and track marks on her thighs had joined him. She watched Bodert cross the lot, her expression unreadable. He got in the Ford and cranked the engine. He looked at the paper Serena had given him. Cricket. Old Dixie. The abandoned golf course. He knew the place. An 80s relic built before the water table dropped and the greens went brown. Now it was a monument to bad decisions. The fairways overgrown and the clubhouse a boarded-up shell. The transmission ground going into reverse. He backed out, pulled onto Federal Highway and headed south. He kept the radio off. He didn't need the weather report to tell him what was coming. He could feel the pressure building in his bones, the stillness before the wind picked up. 3 days. Maybe 4. He pushed the Ford faster, the engine complaining, the speedometer needle wavering past 60. He turned onto Old Dixie Highway, the tires kicking up dust. In the rearview mirror, the pink flamingo shrank away, its one-legged birds leaning into the heat, waiting for the next storm to knock them down.